So over the last few years, there's been this trend developing in modern shooters that started sometime in like 2008 that's really starting to get on my nerves. And that's the idea that every modern multiplayer shooter requires some sort of progression system. Now, I'm not going to assume that everybody's going to be on the same page as me when it comes to progression systems, and that's fine, but they have really started to piss me off. Why do I need to spend 6 hours playing your game before I can unlock a gun I actually want to use? Why can't I just use that gun? So many modern shooters have started relying on progression systems in multiplayer to just keep people playing their game. It's a massive crutch that promotes horrible imbalance between players. We've seen this in the recent bad joke out of EA, Star Wars Battlefront. Turns out what should have been a fun little multiplayer shooter is marred by people who could just kind of mow down those who haven't unlocked the traits. I long for a day of classic objective shooters, where people spawned as equals. If you wanted to headshot someone, you aimed for their crotch, and the op was still fucking bullshit. So in a world of progression-based shooters, it's pretty rare to find one that eschews this in the name of simply good gameplay. Enter Insurgency. It's an objective-based shooter from New World Interactive, released last year onto Steam, and pits the security forces against the insurgents in multiplayer-focused battles over various game types. On the surface, Insurgency seems like your pretty standard fare for shooters. Two teams constantly trying to kill each other. It does break away from the chaff in a lot of ways, though, harkening back both to older school FPSs, doing away with things like progression systems, and focusing on encouraging firefights and tension and realism. When it comes down to a shooter, though, what's the actual shooting like? And this one is quick and brutal. Even with heavier armor, gunfights are decided with just a few bullets. This very sudden death style of gameplay might be a turnoff to some, but it does make the game extremely tense. This is amplified by the spawn system. Almost every mode in the game spawns players in waves, and you have a substantial downtime between wave spawns. It makes lives both precious and fleeting. Each of the game modes in Insurgency is also heavily objective-based, and this system ties into the spawn waves. There's no simple deathmatch in Insurgency. The closest you would have is Firefight, which still has a central objective which teams must capture in order to respawn their dead. Larger scale game modes like Push and Skirmish feature multiple objectives, which determines how many waves of spawns each team has access to. These and more pitch-perfect game modes fit the game's incredibly fast-paced, intense shooting. It adds incredible value to survival. When you have to capture an objective in order to respawn your teammates, you're much more cautious and careful. You move deliberately instead of throwing yourself at the enemy hoping for some sweet, sweet kills. In addition, everything is available to you immediately. When entering a game, you choose a position in a squad. This helps you determine your role and gives you access to a certain set of weapons, which you can then customize with a point system. I wouldn't call these strict classes, as a machine gunner can still take a fairly basic assault rifle, but it subdivides players into roles. People with access to more powerful scoped rifles like some marksman or sniper roles have the ability to snipe enemies and would be optimal for sniping, but can also pick up an AR if the map is too close quarters for that. And this is all amplified by the game's desire to capture a high level of realism. Not content with just your regular shooter set pieces, it instead opts to focus on minimalism and immersive styles. You're given very few HUD elements beyond the number of clips you have and some small markers for objectives. There's no kill tracker, and you can't check your KD while alive, adding another layer of intensity. You catch yourself wondering if you took down your target in that hail of bullets, only to find out the hard way when he pops back up to finish you off. Visual and sound design add to this as well. Bullets kick up dirt, which obscures your target. Dropping prone can fool an opponent into thinking he got you, only to turn around and ambush them when they let their guard down. Even the rapid fade to black when you suffer a headshot is just incredibly jarring. The sounds of gunfire are loud and heavy, bullets whizzing by your head are visceral. The game isn't quite perfect though. The cooperative game modes are kind of lacking when placed against the competitive multiplayer. There's a lot of fun to be had in the multiplayer, but it doesn't transfer over very well. The cooperative game modes are things like quintessential horde modes where you're defending a cache, or moving from objective to objective killing AI opponents. The AI, though, tends to be really stupid. Things like pooling around in your spawn zone so that as your squad respawns, they can just mow them down. And them just completely and utterly missing you. these co-op game modes are really lacking, and I wish there was a little bit more to them. They are a good way to practice, but against really stupid opponents. Despite this, though, Insurgency comes together for an immersive experience, as both a love letter to classical objective-based shooters, and an innovating step in a newer direction, one that's much more interesting to play than the other core shooter crowd and its boring progression arcs. Insurgency feels classic and new, and carries on the tradition of solid multiplayer shooters into a new generation. One with just as much muzzle drift, just as many bullshit snipers, and just as many mouthy 14-year-olds.
That's the wrong,
Way to go, you idiot.
Thank you very much for checking out my little video on Insurgency, a fun little shooter that I've been playing for the last couple of months, I guess, and I thought I should probably finally cover it. I don't know, do you guys like progression systems in shooters? Do you? I really am tired of them, and really getting sick of them. I think that if you just have a good game, then it should hold its own without you needing to add some stupid Skinner box mechanic in. But that's just me. If you did enjoy this video, please do like and subscribe and share. I really means a lot to this channel if you do. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I hope that you have a great one. Oh no, you killed me! I'm dead!